Hello, welcome to today's video. So usually today I would do my crochet with me video, which I'm still going to do at some point, or I may not do it again. But today I've decided to make a video about the state that I'm currently in now. So a few days back I was expecting something. I was expecting for something to work out, or pull through. And today was the day I was to get, the whole outcome. And then I realized that, well, it didn't pull through. It happened. And I woke up pretty early for that, all of the whole thing. I prepared all of that and I waited, and it didn't come. So I realized that it was not coming to at some point of waiting. And then I started to sleep a lot. I've been taking bursts of short nap, since morning till now. This feeling is very ever present. This feeling of disappointment is so obvious. It is not overwhelming, and that's not been overwhelming because I practice stillness. I went to that place in me, my consciousness. I went there and I sat there and I just stared. I just observed me being disappointed. And what is disappointment? Disappointment is, when something doesn't pan out the way you expect it to be, that is disappointment. And so it's like sitting in that place of stillness, in consciousness, is coming to terms with the fact that everything is the way it is. There is no supposed to be, there is no should be. Everything is the way it is, and that is all. And I've been rolling in bed, for some reason. I even found this movie online, The Fall. People were talking about it, and this very popular account on Twitter was like, oh, they love it, it's their bestest movie. Oh yeah, okay, let's go and check this movie out. And this movie ran for almost 2 hours. It's a story of the connection between this man, and this actor or stunt actor, and this little girl that was in the hospital where he was taken to. She broke her arm, and she's not American, she's from India. So she has been learning English, but her English is not exactly perfect. But the story was very interesting because the stunt man, his name is Roy, and the little Indian girl, her name is Alexandra. Both of them connected in a very interesting manner. He started like telling her stories, made up stories, vivid recollections or vivid narrations, conjured up in his imaginations, and she took his word for it, as children do. She believed in his story so much, but he was there for a reason. He's in the hospital for a reason. He performed a very dangerous stunt, in an age where there are no precautions and protections for stunt actors, and when stunt acting was still very new to the movie industry. He still called it, they were calling me movies flickers, and so he was there because he felt so badly that he couldn't feel his legs anymore, couldn't feel his toes and all anymore. And then he had a woman that he was in love with. When that thing happened to him, he sort of gave up on life, and he began to plot ways to end his own life. So, meeting Alexandra, he intended to use her to run errands to source for morphine for him. The pain, he was like, the pain is too much and he can't sleep, so he would describe where the drugs were for her and to her, and then she would go and bring it for him. But with children, when you send their message, like anything can happen, bro. You can tell a kid something like something so simple, and bro, they would mess it up in the most unimaginable way. I'm not like cheating on kids, I'm just saying they are very funny creatures, like. So anyways, it is comedic, mostly, and she's always like, oh, continue your story, and he just continues based off of his feelings. After a while, we begin to see that the story is shaped, according to his um outlook on life from the very point of where he is, right now. And most of the time the stories go so haywire. It's all the same to Alexandra, in the sense that she's like, oh, this story is so up and down, and all gets so bad. Some kind of conflicts, very major incident happened, and Roy eventually gets the chance to take his own life by overdosing. But he finds out that the drugs that he overdosed on were just placebo tablets, sugar tablets. And he was so mad, he was so angry at the doctors. And Alexandra, because of how Roy was like put under, sedated, and she was just shushed away from him, she went back to her own room. She couldn't sleep that night. And then because Roy had already told her, oh, morphine was for sleeping, so she tried to get morphine at night when nobody was there. And unfortunately, since she's just a little kid, it was high up on some shelf, and she fell. And when she fell, it was so bad that she had to be operated, like her brain or her head had to be operated upon. And somehow everybody, the rest of the adults, I mean the doctors, the nurses, all of them, they are then put together two and two that Alexandra had been running drug errands for Roy. And they were like, oh, you have to take responsibility, you have to take responsibility for this. And Roy is at the end of his rope. It's at this point where he even feels worsened, he feels worse by Alexandra. He feels guilty, and guilt doesn't do anything for anybody. So he feels really guilty by Alexandra's state, how she ended up, and he blames himself. And the doctors, piling on him, they imagine that it will transform into him wanting to, face life head on and be alive. But it just made him even want to die much, much, much more, because the guilt was too much. And then he was by her bedside when she was recovering, like when she awoke from her surgery, and she was like, oh, tell me the story. And he was crying and he was drinking, he was alcohol, like was drunk. But then the way he kept on telling the story, all the characters that were beloved to Alexandra, he started killing them off. He killed off Luigi. You need to see the movie The Fall. He killed off Luigi, he killed off the Mystic, he killed off Wallace and Charles Darwin, he killed off the Indian, he killed off the freed slave guy. So all that was left was just Alexandra, because at some point in her imagination she was a part of the story. All that was left was Alexandra and Roy, who was the main bandit of the story, or main character. Alexandra is listening to him kill off these characters in very horrible, tragic, very pretty tragic ways. And she's like, please stop. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Like his own, like he was just like self mutilating in that way. He was killing himself basically in the story by killing those characters too. And she was like, please stop. At some point, the lines between imagination and real life crossed. It blurred, to both of them. And he was just basically telling her, that he's going to die, that he's going to, the governor that they all plan to kill, the reason why they existed in the first place, killing the evil governor, that the governor is going to kill him and that will be the end of it. And she's like, no, please, what about your daughter? And it's like, I have no daughter. And she, at that point, you can see that she's very much attached to Roy. She's in love with him. She loves him so deeply. Even before now, her mother came to the hospital to ask for her progress on her arm healing. She kind of avoided the whole situation as a child does, but she actually avoided the whole thing. In her mind, she was like, she's not going to heal until, you know like, she's not going to heal because she wants to continue to be with Roy. So anyway, Roy hurtles towards a very tragic ending for his story, and Alexandra is just there begging him, like, please, let's, like, you can't die because of a woman that she has never loved you before. I love you. And the man too is not um it's not as important as you are. Your life is like, she kept on, like, kind of pleading for him not to kill the characters in the story, but at the end of the day she was just begging him not to kill himself. And it was like, he gives up. There's nothing for him anymore. He's just a half man. What did all of it, what did it come to make me feel? It just puts in perspective, where I am right now. The reason why, well, I cannot say the reason entirely because human beings are too complex, but I feel like one of the things I could piece together from the story was that Roy was, I think disappointment would be an understatement, but disappointment was there. He wanted to have this big short moment in film, this big short moment that will be recognized even by his very one true love. And when he's recognized by her, he will be a star because he's a stunt man and this, and instead he ended up being a half man, as he puts it. So his frustration and his suicidal ideations about the situation he was in was because he felt things were not the way they were supposed to be. This was not how it panned out in his head. This was not how life was supposed to go for him. He didn't want to live in a life that didn't go the way he wanted it to go. A life that threw him off course, a life that rendered him, useless to a very large extent. All of it just to say that from the movie, I got the message that disappointment comes when things go out of your control. When things no longer go according to plan, you feel disappointment and you feel like, okay, I don't know what is ahead of me. Since this plan failed, there must be nothing, ahead for me, especially in this specific thing I want. And the way the story goes is like, at the end of it, we are not even given if Roy, his progress report or a real diagnosis of his condition. But at the end of it, Alexandra narrates how she sees Roy acting every sort of stunt that you can imagine. He's jumping off a train, he's falling from a building, he's landing on a ladder. She sees his face and she confirms it's her Roy. So Roy still ends up being a stuntman in that way. And I didn't want to put the ending so that I wouldn't give up this idea of, you see, if something doesn't go well for you, maybe just wait, and then happy ending or something like that. No, the point of saying it is that when things go out of your control, or when things, it's also telling myself, like, when things go out of my control, it is fine. I never really had any control in the first place. If I pay close attention to it, I never really had control in the first place. What gives me the illusion of control, what gives anybody the illusion of control, is just having expectations at all. There is some kind of expectation that because of this thing that I want, this thing that I want is going to come in this certain way, in this type of way, and all of that. And it's like throwing it back to me, like, even the thing I was hoping for, I was expecting, at the end of it all, it's still a means to an end. You get? And so it is just one means to an end. It's just one means to an end. It is not, there are there could be, or there are infinitesimal ways that I could come into the things that I want, and holding on to control, feeling disappointment is just limiting myself in a way, to just one thing, to just one story, one storyline, one way, basically. And so it's like, disappointment is fine. I'm just going to allow the feeling to be where it is. I'm just going to continue to observe it. But behind disappointment is that illusion of control that I didn't know that I was, grasping onto. And something that is an illusion has no hold. It's like a castle in the air. It has nothing, it has no foundation, it has no meaning. It's just there to keep up appearances. And it's like, okay, the feeling of disappointment is to now clear the haze from my eye, from my eyes, that I never had any control, and I don't want control. In this era of, or in this state of full acceptance of the unknown or not knowing, these are just run of the mill experiences, and it will feel less and less like disappointment, hopefully. The more I see or recognize illusions, where they pop up. I recognize illusions where they pop up and be like, okay, this is just an illusion of control. And I'm in the place of the unknown. Control does not work in the place of the unknown. Control does not work here. There's no such thing as control, because nothing you're experiencing is familiar. So you just have to give yourself up to the nothingness of it, which I feel like this was just like a checkpoint in a way. Like, hey, maybe I was rolling in that direction. I didn't know that my mind was going there, and this whole thing happening is for me to call myself back to infinite consciousness, infinite awareness, and yeah, basically just call myself back that, hey, let go. There is nothing there for you to hold. Everything is the way it is, and that's fine. It's really perfect that, like that. Yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. My bear's name is Anya. I haven't named this one, but they remind me of Kebe. Thank you for being here, and I hope if you are feeling disappointed this afternoon, or you've been feeling disappointed for a while, you can come to a point of stillness where you know that everything just is, everything is just is, and that is it.